Bring our meeting to order. I'm going to start at 6 o'clock. Did everybody get a chance to review the meeting minutes?
Yes.
I did. Anybody have any questions or adjustments, comments?
None.
None. I motion to accept the meeting minutes from March 21st, 2024 as is.
And second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Right. So we're going to skip the Friends update because the Friends are not here, which leads us right into the Senior Center.
Yay.
And you, Allison, I've met everybody else.
I am. Oh, I'm sorry, Alice.
Oh, yeah, we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Jared.
I think I saw you with the boat races with the captain.
Yeah, oh, many a time.
Yes. Well, we have introduced ourselves. I'm Peg Noguera.
I'm here.
Right. And you already know Elena because she's your
Yeah.
counterpart from the select board as well.
Both of you.
What I did was I came in a little earlier just to put up some larger pictures so that you can see them. And I also have a handout that I gave all of you. And it's actually pretty self-explanatory. What we did in here was we tried to put in the most frequently asked questions because it seemed like people had the same questions over and over. And every presentation we go to, we give this handout out. Some people get confused and they say, is that like two separate buildings? One is the senior and one is the community. It isn't. It's really one building with the barn attached in the back. And it's built, it's over 13,000 square feet. Now, I've been in Mendon for 45 years. I remember taking my daughter to see Lorna Rhodes, the librarian at the old Taft Library, and I understand the space constraints you had then. I was all in favor of getting a new library, and you know the frustration that you went through with the first one down on Hopedale Street and having it not pass. I hope you will sympathize with us because this is our third attempt to try to get this building done. And we came up with the idea that it would be wonderful for the community if we could combine the senior center with a community project. It will benefit everybody. We sometimes think seniors don't really do too much, and they're not active, but I can honestly tell you, having been a volunteer at the senior center since 2011, we are a very active community. The problem is we have no space. Can I just have a show of hands of how many of you have ever been in the center? Oh, great. So
We used to do a lot of library events there.
yes, we did.
When we were in the old building.
I can understand why. We have a capacity issue. We have a space issue for parking. If you've been to our center, we have very limited parking. What happens is people have to park across the street and they have to take their life in their hands, crossing that road. We actually put up 2 of those signs for the speed limit, and it has not done anything to slow anyone down. So we don't have crossing guards, and so that's another reason why we needed a larger space. One of the frequently asked questions is, why didn't you just expand where you were? Well, actually, we couldn't, because the town only granted us 1 more acre of land, and that would take up all of the parking, and we would have no recreational activities for the community. So we did look at 4 locations, including the one in Morrison Street, that abandoned building that's down by the fire station. And we looked at your site on Hopedale Street, and there was a conservation issues there. And so we decided by vote to take the corner of Hopedale, of North Avenue and Route 16. There's 22 acres there. We're going to take up almost 3, like 2.5 to 3. And in that, we plan on having community activities for the whole town. We're going to put in a basketball court. We're going to put in 2 pickleball courts. We're going to have a bocce court. And the most important thing is this town needs walking trails, preferably ADA walking trails. Another idea I talked to Andrew the last time I was here is that I live on the Bellingham end of Mendon. And my family and I, we go down there to walk because there's really not a lot of places to walk around here. And there's not a lot of sidewalks off of Bellingham Street, let me tell you. So we go down there, and what I liked about it, and I think that the library would be a great partner for this, is that as you walk around and you bring your kids or your grandkids, they have these big plexiglass things mounted, and it's a storytelling book. It opens the book at page 1, and it starts telling the stories with pictures. And I can tell you, they're quite large. They're almost as large as this. And as you walk around the park, you can read the stories. It goes all around, and they change them all the time. So that would be a great collaboration.
Yeah, we've been wanting to do that on our property since we opened.
Well, that's what Tara was saying.
Yeah,
when I
so
was
we've
here.
been trying to get that here.
Well, that would be a great collaborative effort. I think the point that I want to make is that we're not in competition with people for dollars and things. I think that whatever is good for the town, hopefully will be approved. This is an idea that's long overdue. You know, we do the food pantry in town. If you've been in our facility and if you've been downstairs, you know that it is quite inadequate. We also, people don't know this, but we are the emergency disaster place to go. Now, with a capacity of 65 in the whole building, we're going to be turning people away if there's a disaster. We don't want to have to do that. We want the building to be large enough so that we can have a capacity for emergencies of 125 beds, food, and we're mandated by FEMA to have a couple of showers and extra bathrooms downstairs. People say $13.2 million, that's a lot of money. Yes, it is. But every time we've attempted this, the numbers have been going with the times. If any of you have built a house recently or done any repairs, you know the cost of wood, you know the cost of skilled labor, and so we're hoping that the town will approve it, because it is not only a senior center, it's something for the whole community. Now, the final thing I want to say is we did have the newspapers come down and they did write an article. And unfortunately, in the top of the article, it talked about what it's going to cost the taxpayer. That was just an estimate that was given to us when we first began this project. We're working with Jody and all the town officials to try to get that to be less of an impact on the taxpayer. We're kind of looking, I was going to say probably under 200 now, if you have a $500,000
That's what it's
home.
looking like, the way the debt will be.
Instead of 350, it's looking more like a little under 200. And we're going to get that message out to everybody.
Per
Oh,
Per household.
for like, for the,
household,
for like the
quarter
per year.
No,
per year.
per year. Which, you know, I mean, it is what it is. We need it. We definitely need it, and I think the town needs it. We have the backing of the Parks and Rec, because they only have one basketball area, and they can't keep up with it. And, you know, the youth in town need a place to go. They need activities to do. I mean, that's the beauty of this town. You know, we look after our people, and we'd like to continue doing that. Do you have any specific questions? Because I know you're only giving us like 10 minutes of time.
Oh, I don't think there's no
No,
specific time limit.
Oh. We figured we were just kind of like an add-on. but-
No.
Please, any questions?
Oh, I'm a troublemaker to the nth degree.
No.
One, it's always important to make sure you cover all your bases. That's key. I have a separate challenge, and this is not a challenge with you, nor with you, the select board, but the longer term evaluation of asset management, where we seem to be taking on as a town, we need this project, we need a new project to make sure we can meet the current needs, but we haven't evaluated that over 10, 15, 20, or 30 years. So we have circumstances like we have here, where we have an amazing library, it's exceptional, but we also have a building directly attached to us, which we never did anything with. And so now we're in this unique circumstance of, hey, we have an asset, a town-owned asset directly next to us, which could be used for something. We don't know exactly what it should be for or what that looks like in the future. But we have we kind of have our own responsibility to look at that and say, that's attached to us. So everyone sees that as part of the library. Like, okay, so what's the process for us to make sure we can advocate appropriately, do something that's smart and move that forward? So I say that more as a coming into this role newly, being a new member of the board, which the trustees, I really appreciate. I'm learning much more about how the town has approached things historically, and thankfully how they're starting to look at things differently. So that's James's moment, but I would add, I have two questions or maybe two clarifications. So transparency, I work with Bucky, so him and I run emergency management for the town.
Not Pino.
Yep.
I'm
So
sorry,
just know that FEMA actually does not require us to have showers. It is in their recommendations when it comes to shelters. So when we use those terms and discussions on how we take care of emergency shelters, the requirements are actually based on what capacity and what you can do for the people. So we can technically even, as you know, use the senior center right now.
Yes.
We also can use the school, even though we don't necessarily have access to showers, we can still use that as an emergency shelter and be within the set requirements. So just be aware so that we make sure we're using those terms the right way. I love blaming FEMA. I used to work for FEMA. I blame them all the time, but we want to blame them the right way. And the second one is more of a curiosity. How many acres is currently at the senior center where you guys are now? You had said you were.
Not even one, I
you were-
don't think it's.
You were gonna get 1 acre, one, and they were.
I don't know for sure, but I thought it was an acre.
So, yeah, so the issue is not just sort of how much space, but how the space is like near the road. So
Laid
like
out.
the architect does not feel like the parking would be, the way he likes to configure the parking is to have
Sure.
it be in front of the building, and there isn't room in front of the building. So like, so that's one issue. And there is room to expand the building there to some extent, but it is, it is limited because the space is limited, and it would involve closing the senior center for a period of time.
Yeah.
Including the food pantry.
And
Shut down.
apparently, like, the cost of
And
it
find a place to
would
go to.
not be that much less, like because of the changes that would need to be made, like to make it, bigger as we talked about with this building, it's gonna need to have the sprinkler system and all of the bells and whistles that go with that. So that is one of the issues with the current space is it would be really costly, but also like then it would reach that point where like it couldn't be expanded anymore, whereas moving to a new location has that possibility to build out in, say, another 10 years, another 20 years when the town needs it. And the current building can be used because it's a building in good shape and there
Yes, you
are,
kept
so
it.
like,
I noticed that, so that was actually, when I went through the script,
Yeah.
I saw in the frequently asked questions, what's the current building gonna be used for? And it identifies here that it could be the highway department or whatnot.
Or Parks and Rec.
Or, okay, yep, or Parks and Rec.
Mhm.
I would think, especially as a taxpayer, I would want a solid solution on that one, because that's been a question we've been running around in our house.
right, yeah, so we had talked about having like a committee, like if this passes, that another stage would be to have a committee to look at the use of that building, because we don't want another situation like this, or like
No,
that fire
it's-
department structure, the shell of the fire department, I don't know how much you know about that, but that's a very unfortunate situation where there was some investment and then nothing happened with that building, and now it's more of a liability than an asset. So it is definitely something that is on the radar for that, and there are, there are departments that need more space, so yeah, that is one of the arguments for like moving it, and then, it's tough. There was a lot of debate over this because people are very attached to the existing building.
The building's
So,
33 years old.
Interesting, okay,
Like,
sure.
Yeah, a lot of people do not, like, a lot of people who use the senior center, they're like, but like,
They're
we
kind of
love this.
friendly, yeah.
Like,
Well,
because it's like a house.
People don't like change to some
Right,
degree,
No,
right?
but also,
As far as stuff like that.
also, when the original building was made, it was just the first floor. And then volunteers came in and they put in windows, they put in the stairway. A lot of people, they know it was either their parents or their
Right.
husbands or their brothers, who put in free labor, free everything
Right.
into this. But the capacity of only
Just like with this
60
original building, right?
Well, right, and like, yeah, I don't know, like the ramp, I don't believe is actually.
And that's why I asked if you've ever been in there, because to get to the second floor, you really kind of have to sidestep, and some people have to get into that chair and kind of go up. And the seniors make up 28% of Mendon's population. We have 1,775 people in town, age 60 or over. Now, many of them are still working, you know, as I was when I was 60 years old. But there are events that we have that we actually have to waitlist people or turn them away. And we don't want to have to do that. To me, we want a vibrant senior center. You know, we want to be part of the community. That's why we're making all of these connections. I mean, we do. We hope that we get people to vote for it, you know. You'll start seeing the signs up, you know, we need your vote for a bigger boat, which we got from the boat races last year. I know because I was one of the rowers. So you can see I'm not in a rocking chair. But anyway, so yes, we like the collaborative effort with everybody, and we have been going out, we've been doing our best. But we're open for any questions. There's at least 12 people on the committee, and everybody kind of has their specialty. Like Bucky, I'm gonna have to follow that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a question.
Yes.
Has there been consideration as to the maintenance of the property afterwards in terms of landscaping and additional cost to manage this size building compared to what you have now? And has that already been considered in the budget and how we're gonna afford that?
It.
As a town.
As a town, right.
considered. So I know there are people looking into it, and there is going to be somewhat of an increase, although there isn't a need for additional staff for the senior center as there's a need for additional staff here, and that did not make it through this year's budget.
Ours didn't either.
So,
It didn't?
so, what's that? No, well, what, well.
No, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
The one from last,
Oh, that one
the
did.
one from
Okay.
last year.
That one did. Okay, that was what I thought you were saying. I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
We need to
And the,
cause complications. We were pushing for a few more hours.
We were.
yeah,
And that one, yeah, that
well,
one.
and we shift, pending a shift
Right.
in the budget, we may be able to get a couple hours.
Right.
Okay,
And
yeah,
to
so,
give you some evening hours, but I
Yeah.
have to say, poor Andrew, he was last, the
yeah.
night of the.
I was on the call, we were on the call.
I was sitting in there because we were next to the last.
Yeah.
We were on the call with them.
We were sitting in the
Yeah.
room.
Yeah,
I mean,
but,
so it's unlimited.
yeah, so the senior center needs more staff just to deal with the existing programs and existing needs.
So I
So,
guess
like,
that's where my question comes from, is we've struggled as a group here to
Right.
get those hours and that
Oh,
staff and
yes.
that maintenance.
and,
And here we are adding another building that's 13,000 square feet that needs to be heated
so,
and lights
yeah.
and staff. And now we have a new space to mow and shovel and like,
Right.
that all costs money.
So, yeah, so I know, Chief Kersey is one of the people investigating that because, he was involved with the new police station.
Yeah.
So it is being looked at. I don't have those numbers at my fingertips. So I can tell you that of course, there will be additional operational costs, but the architect is, he's building it in such a way that the heating costs will be, it's gonna be a very tightly insulated building. We're looking into potentially seeking green energy
Mhm.
grants to offset some of the operation costs. We're hoping to get solar panels, but we had to take that was one of the things that got hit with the, when trying to reduce the
We reduced it
the
3
cost
times.
was bigger before.
We just kept saying
The
no,
reduced version. So, but we are still, I'm still optimistic that we're gonna be able to find those green energy solutions, which will then the energy costs will be reduced. I'm hoping that for the library that that's still an option, so
and this is a community building
it's
too.
right, and so it probably will be So unlike this building, it will not need to be staffed upstairs and downstairs. So the spaces will be, there will be a fob system so that the rooms will be used. So like there will be staffing for specific events, but not necessarily ongoing. Like, so this building, you need to have staff upstairs and downstairs.
Right.
And that is not the expectation
No,
with the new building, that it will be kind of the same programs, but like scaled up and probably making more use of volunteers and like senior work
yeah, I
options.
haven't seen it running over.
Yeah, because Amy is good at accessing those hours. But you're right, I mean, it will be, there will be additional operational costs, and I don't have the specifics, but we are also trying to come up with solutions to minimize those. And as far as like landscaping, I know that we are working with, like, to some extent, this is like, Parks is joining in here because,
Right.
to
You'll
have
do the
these,
scheduling of the
facilities,
basketball court.
like, additional mowing, like, I don't know, we can ask about that, because that is a good question. And
I mean, it's
like,
already a struggle in
I
the
know.
town in
Oh, I
general, so
I
now
know.
I'm thinking, here's a whole new, and this
I know.
isn't a small space,
Yeah, it's only one
It
person.
isn't,
Yeah,
we
right.
have between 10 and 20 groups that meet in our facility. If you ride by at night, you'll see the lights on.
I'm not disputing that at all. That's not my dispute. It's more of, has the town and have we as a group already considered, after we get it approved,
Right.
what it's gonna cost
Right.
us later?
And-
And do we have those funds already
Allocated.
allocated, or where they're gonna come from? Or we're gonna
Right.
have to get another override after it's built in order to maintain
Yeah,
it?
so
That's my concern.
These are good questions, and like, I think, we should bring that back to the committee and see if we can get sort of some specific numbers. And I know this is something that happened with this, like,
Yeah.
with the expansion from the smaller building to the bigger building. There is more electricity used, I believe, so like.
Is there?
Yeah.
It's
So-
also the type of
Right,
units
so-
they're using.
But I mean, so this, I think, is not an energy efficient building, right? This was not built to be an energy efficient building. So that's another advantage of a new building, that it should, you're right, the cost will be more, but we are like, I mean, I'm hoping, for like, as an environmentalist, that we will be able to get the clean energy solution. So I do, there is somebody who is sort of actively hoping to get, like, for us to get geothermal, but like, I don't know, like, that was.
Those costs start to, they start to bring your cost up significantly.
What's that?
Sometimes those things
Oh, I
bring
know,
your
so
cost up
it's not in the
significantly.
original plan, but like, well, the cost to put it in, but then the
Right.
operation costs get
Yes.
lessened. So like, anyhow, so we're gonna be exploring like, grant opportunities to, green communities. But I don't know, but you bring up really good questions, and all I know is that there are people working on this, and it's not me. But
There's 12 of us,
right,
and we're not
Yeah.
joined at the hip, we all are doing
but,
a piece of
but
it.
it is a really good question.
We'll bring it
And
back
I
on
will-
Tuesday.
I will say that, like, one thing, like, so I know, like, I was hoping that the library could get those couple hours, but we held on to the full-time position and the benefits, and so that is.
We're happy with
like-
that. That was our main goal, no. I was like, oh, no,
No, so, but like, I was hoping that, the couple hours could happen, and there was the hope that at the senior center, there could be,
A shared
an
position.
additional,
Mm.
either an additional part-time position or a position changed from part-time to full-time. And that, both of those, they did not make the final cut, which was last night. What did make the final cut is actually a position that I think has the potential to benefit many departments, which is to bring the conservation agent to full-time, because that will be a grant-seeking position, as well as looking at the fees that Mendon is taking in. So there's like a potential improvement of revenue in some areas. So like, it's not gonna be huge, but I think it's sort of like, it's moving in the direction that I think can benefit multiple departments. So like, what?
No, it's
So,
great.
yeah,
I have one other question, but I love it. Keep going.
I did ask about, the hours for the library, so like it just, and then in the end, like.
We honestly didn't expect them, if I'm
Yes.
honest. We kind of put them in there with the hope of maybe, but knowing that they probably weren't gonna
And
happen.
hopefully they will in the future, so like, but like, anyhow, so.
But thank you for that, thank you for the full-time position, that,
Yes,
that
that
is
one,
amazing.
right, that one, right, that one we
Amazing.
were, like,
So
there were
thank you.
several of us that were firm about that, so sorry, for me, that was already a done deal, so, but I know, there's a long history.
We just hadn't
There's a
heard that
long
yet.
history. Yeah,
It's PTSD, it's okay.
Isn't it just last night?
yes, that was, yeah,
That's why you
Yeah,
said it.
no, yep.
She took a few hours of sleep.
I said it.
Oh, did you hear it?
I heard it.
Go ahead, you have another question.
So this might be a silly one, but often when you have events at Clough, the overflow parking is right at that main entrance, which is identified here. Has it been taken into consideration in the design work, and how is that going to be met as a community?
Well, we did have a discussion whether or not there would be some available parking on the top.
so, yeah, I mean, we have talked about this, we see that area is still being available for parking, like it just will have like a road going through it now, potential, so there has been talk about whether, like, the timing of events at the
Yes,
senior
we're gonna be
center
very
and
careful about
school that's to
With the buses.
coordinate so that there are not sort of conflicting
Awesome.
events, because
I've noticed them parking over there almost every afternoon.
Yeah.
Like, there's
They're
not enough
picking
parking
up
at
their
Club
kids. They're
anymore, so
picking up
they're
their kids.
they're across the
So I
street
don't
almost every
think that
day.
this will be, like, will interfere with that, and that was actually one of the concerns that a lot of people had about this site, is like, what about all the traffic? It's like, well, there is traffic, but it's not all day, and I don't, this is not going to, like, block off parking from
No.
there, so.
Okay, so geeky moment, are you allowed to build another access directly off of Milford Street?
So, okay, so one thing is that little tail of road is not going to be there, that was something that was kind of.
Okay.
So,
Well, we're
probably
expecting
there's-
maybe the town will
So,
put
yeah,
that in.
I think there
Because
will
they're
be,
gonna
like,
want to develop the land back here.
right, but as far as an access from Route 16, the thought is no, other than an emergency vehicle access, because there would be too much, like, risk of people cutting through to cut off the
Sure.
light and.
And the speed is higher there. That's one thing that the chief brought this up time and time again, saying he'd rather have a lot of traffic that's turning from Route 16 onto North Avenue, because they're going very slow. They know that there's a school, there's a sign posted, there's an officer usually around there with the car, and so
Yeah.
he said he'd rather have that.
Right.
He did not want to see
So,
us with
right.
an exit on
And
16.
dense traffic, I guess, is safer than, like, where the senior center is now.
Right,
Cars speed, and it's like a huge amount of traffic going by, and it's like going through, heading through town as opposed to like.
And turning out of there, you can't see as well.
No, you
Right,
can't.
right,
Yeah, I'm there every week, so yeah,
And I know
absolutely,
I
that's
had
not
to park
easy.
across the street, and there's a crosswalk, but I still, like,
Yeah.
get plowed down, so it's.
and some of us who still have our legs, we walk across the street, look, run.
But yeah, these are really good questions,
Yep.
and,
And we'll bring them back to the committee.
and yeah, and I think if we don't have them answered here, like, we should probably, like.
Well, we have an open house coming up, in
Yeah.
case any of you
But
are
I mean, like,
interested.
the
It's
operation.
the 24th of April at 6:30 to 7:30. It's actually on the marquee, I'll call it, in Founder's Park, that says an informational question answer.
So, excuse me, as far as your, plans for expansion, meaning like, so for example, when we built this library, we thought we had future expansion available to us. And once we were in here and realized, you know what? We don't. We're at capacity.
We turn people away, we have wait lists too. I mean, we have all of the same
We're at
struggles that you have,
capacity.
even in the same building, we have all of them too.
The point now with the parking where,
Parking is-
depending on what the event is in the morning,
Yeah.
we've got people parking over by the rectory because we just don't have.
Yeah, and
This is a
and
22
we're,
acre parcel, correct? 22 or 23 acre parcel. And we're gonna be using less than 3 acres.
right. What I'm saying is, are you guys like, in this plan, is this plan as is, allow you to have some room for expansion
Yes.
without additional
Yeah.
buildings, et cetera?
Well, we'd probably have to put, there would have to be an addition.
Yeah. So, so I think, I don't know. if-
But this
if
building
it
should
has
last
that
us at
same
least
amount
30 years.
open.
The other one we were in was 33 years. It's
So
30
yeah, I think
years.
that, the architect, I know on some versions I've seen where specific areas where like I mean, there is room for, definitely room for more parking. But I think there's also like room for like expanded, say, outbuildings, because the senior center needs to have a garage for van.
Right.
Which also it didn't get cut, but it got reduced. It's gonna be kind of
Really
a,
brushed the shell.
like a shell, yeah, as opposed to more of like a building.
We did our due diligence. I mean, I can say that. And we're all taxpayers and we've kept that in mind. But like I said, I've been with the senior center since 2011 and I see it. I'm there just about every day and I see it. And I see it.
I have a couple of questions.
Certainly.
How much space do you currently have?
I think we have about 6,000 square feet, I think. I'm not the math
Yeah, I don't
person.
know. I mean, I've seen this, but I don't.
I think it's about 6.
So this is a little more than double.
Yeah,
What you have
up
right now.
close, yeah, yes.
And are you charging anyone to use the space?
We don't now.
But going forward
Well,
with
this
this
is-
building,
this-
are you gonna charge
To
anyone
go
to
back to
use the
our
space?
maintenance, we do have some areas that we thought would be good if people wanted to have a function there. If we have a room that fits 125 people, which can be shut between, with the sliding doors and things, that if we were to charge, it would be to cover the maintenance, to cover the lights, the heat, a janitor to come in.
But if the Cub Scouts wanted to use a room, they would just reserve
They
it
use a room, yeah,
and use it?
yeah, we weren't charging for anything like that, no. That, we don't consider that a private event, we consider that a town event.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
And
they
it's
do it
just-
now, they use it now.
It's just first come, first served to sign up for any of these facilities?
Right, we thought that we would keep the upstairs mostly, except for that large room, to the senior center. So we could lock that up and not use that. And the downstairs has rooms. The downstairs they have meeting rooms. Let me give you this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is the way you can really see it.
But you bring up a good point. With additional space, it might be helpful to have additional structure about reserving the space. Because I know as. Well, so like, I know as it is, like people, just like for here, right, if people need to use this space, I think, do they contact you?
Yeah.
It's like
It's
people need
pretty
to use
informal,
this.
but I mean.
Ours is informal now.
And that's how it is now, like people will just email Amy to see if the senior
If
center
it's
is
okay.
available for their meeting. But like now that potentially there will be multiple meeting spots, yeah, I think that there is, it would be useful to have some sort of sign up. And I know that that's been talked about for like
Yeah,
the
you may want,
pickleball courts is to have like an
you may
online
want to
sign
look
up.
at a
So-
scheduling software.
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah, through the Parks and Rec, through the
Right,
Parks
but
and
I
Rec.
think that's a good point, to have it be like
Our food pantry
more transparent.
has to be at least
People get
double.
access.
The space is very, very small. If you've been down there, the space is very, very small down there. And we provide food to the town. It isn't just seniors, it's of all ages, families.
Can you differentiate the cost between the building and the outside facilities, the courts, the?
Oh, that's all gonna be, that'll be on the warrant when you go, if you attend the May 3rd meeting. Our CPA is going to put in 3 requests for money that you've already put in, CPA funds. And they're gonna be picking up the cost for these recreational things, including the paths, including the walking trails. So we're just asking for money for the building.
So that cost doesn't include anything outside?
No,
But
just
well,
the
the parking-
garage,
parking lot.
the garage shell and the parking lot,
The
yeah.
parking lot is
So
Expensive.
the building and the parking, and that's it. Everything else is covered by someone else.
Yeah, CPA funds, they're gonna have, I think we're number 21 on the warrant. And then they're like the next 3 after us will be to ask the town to allow the funds to be used for recreational, in the park, the trails and things like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
we had really put a lot of thought into this. And like I said, this is our third attempt. You went through 2 attempts to get your building, so you understand. We've been disappointed twice, but we're hoping that, somebody said it when I came in, that 3 times was a charm. So we're hoping, but we're happy to answer any questions, and you're welcome to come to our open house. And if you've ever been down to the center, you know how small our kitchen is. If you get 4 people in there, you know, really.
We've used it.
Yeah. So just try to prepare.
We made
meals and
gingerbread
get-
houses one year.
So one thing I want to mention, just because it's in front of me, is, so what the original proposal was for actually a little bit more space to have more storage, because the senior center also stores a lot of medical equipment that's used by the community. But one of the ways of shaving off, I think it ended up being like $1 million, was, so this is a hill. So this was going to be originally a full lower level, but it's more expensive to excavate that. So that is one of the ways in which, so this space, the original plan was actually bigger originally. So that was, I see
So
that, and that's
gone
what
now.
this is.
Yeah, that's gone now.
So I mean, there have been many efforts to shave down the size, but you know, the concern is that if it's shaved down too much, it will not be useful, like, for the future. So, which I think you can.
So that layout there, that floor plan there is for the basement level.
Then it's the lower level.
Right, which will be a full, like, there will be.
And that's the
parking
lower
down
level
there.
of the white building?
No.
The red
red.
building.
That's the barn,
Yeah,
okay.
so like, a lot of it is food pantry.
Okay,
This right here is the.
food pantry storage,
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
food
so
storage.
this footprint here, and that's sort of the.
classroom, game room, and multi-purpose room. Okay,
You know, if you've been in there, you have that, Amy's assistant, she doesn't even have an office. When you walk in, she's there answering the phone. Privacy is, you know, with all that HIPAA stuff, privacy is really difficult for her to have any type of conversation. There's always an activity going on.
yeah.
We're putting up these screens and things, I mean, I think the town can do better than that. I think they can. I think they can, help us at least get a building that will last 30 years.
Yeah, and so another thing, which, again, I'm not the expert on this, but looking at the financing of it, so our finance director is looking into this. We have some debt coming off now from past capital projects, and so this is a really good time for the town to take on more debt. And if it is structured right, it actually will make it possible for future debt projects. So it's about, like, helping Mendon's debt capacity. That's the term that they use. And so because this debt is coming off, so there's some debt coming off from the schools, and then there will be from the police station. And so that is part of how the expected annual amount is going to go down. Because the original cost was actually looking at like a flat, you distribute it over 30 years, what the cost will be, but that's not actually how it's gonna work. Like there are some interesting graphs that the finance director shared, and they're in the meetings, you know, the meetings were recorded, so but it looks like, you know, the debt is sort of staggering off, and then this debt is gonna be sort of front-loaded to fill in that gap, but then it leaves space, because I know the schools are gonna have projects, and that's been a topic as well, like, so the plan is that this is not going to make it hard for anybody else to get their projects, because like, hopefully we're working on having the mechanisms for having, like, addressing the future capital needs in a global way, and I know, like, James, this is a you know, key concern of yours, and so we're moving in the direction of having, so there is now a capital planning working group. There's not currently a capital planning committee, but there will be. And so, you know, I'm hoping to, you know, come back to some of you about that. But, you know, these are like, there are people who are really trying to take the long view. And we know that the schools are gonna need, you know,
They said it.
They said it.
They're asking for an override next
they
year.
have that, like,
So-
right. Well, so, and that's like, yeah, an operational override as opposed to Right, but they're going to need the debt exclusions as well, because there will be like a need for.
It's a new roof on it, and.
And our building that we're in now, the town will save by not having to build another one. It just, our building is in moving condition. We do keep it up. And, that's the equivalent of about, what, $300,000 if they had to
Oh, more
build
than,
more than
more
that.
than that,
More than
yeah.
that. Well, if they had to build a new one.
If they had to, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know.
So there is some giving back.
Yeah,
One of the other things that will help you, especially if you're looking for grants when it comes to shelter requirements, make sure you articulate it, like where your, the shelter materials are being stored. So when you have spots that are storage or whatnot, identify that clearly, say, hey, this is also for emergency shelter equipment. And
Yeah.
maybe even build out a layout that shows, hey, these are the rooms that would be used at a low tier disaster and a mid tier disaster.
so I know we have like Mark Lucchino or
Yeah.
Bucky as we learned it.
Nice.
That's
his
But
specialty.
anyhow, but I mean, I guess, we should follow up with him. I'm not sure, again, it's a big group. And
Yeah.
so I mean, I would be interested in hearing more from you. Maybe I can ask you, have you talked about him directly with this? I know you worked with him, but okay.
And I spoke with them today already, so
Okay,
yeah.
okay, all right,
We
so-
were working with Mima on other issues, so.
Okay, but, because I didn't write all of that down that you said.
I got it.
Now.
Don't worry, no stress, that's what I'm here for. Just my time, James, that's all.
James, the troublemaker?
Yes.
I thought there was a
That's
name
right.
for that name.
That's what I'm here for. You didn't know when they voted me in. But no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help.
James, the crazy hair guy.
Hey, I couldn't do it for 27 years.
I know.
Yes, happy to sit down and we can go through it and I can corner mark and say, here's what you need to make sure you're.
You meet twice a month.
Oh, yeah, I know. No, he calls me usually every other day. So, he reminds me. No, that's perfect. I got you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, we are hoping to seek out a lot more grant funding, but it does seem to be the case that you can't get the grants unless you have a project approved.
Correct.
So I think, you run into that also.
Yes.
Yeah, we had that discussion with Mima today. So we were talking with Mark's so here's what it is. And the first question was, okay, so is it approved?
Yeah.
Pause. We're like, not yet, but this is what we're working to try to do, so.
May 3 and May 14.
Yeah.
I know, we're hoping.
This is important. So now, to be devil's advocate, or sorry, probably inappropriate term, I apologize.
Somebody has already took that position.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
What do you need from us?
Well, I think I wanted to make sure that you understood, and in my heart, I knew that you did, because having lived in town for 45 years, I went through, as a taxpayer and reading about what you went through with that piece of land down there.
Yeah.
And that it was gonna be a joint library with Upton, and it just didn't pass, And to be honest with you, we didn't think just a senior center alone would pass. And we really are all about community, we are. And this actually has been a good exercise, because I don't really know you, I knew you looked familiar to me. And when I saw your name, I was like, oh yeah, the Phipps, yes. And so it's good for us, really. We can help each other.
Mhm.
I told you about that walkway with the books and things like that. I think that would be a great collaboration between the senior center and having the pen pal program come back, and I think there's so much you could do. They're talking about connecting trails down to where Vandus Luce's property is. And I mean,
Yeah, I would love it if that could happen.
That would be great.
The current plans don't have it, but I've heard that
Yeah.
floated before. It'd be nice to be able to walk down, either way without going.
right, have a trail. And those funds, the CPA funds for those trails down there, they've already been taken out of the budget and everything. It's just there, and it's the specific things, and we think this is a good use of it.
Mhm.
And it's just the building that's going to be expensive. But like I said, we're working with Jody and the town officials to try to get it. That's for a $500,000 home, assessed value.
Right, assessed
Assessed
value,
value,
right,
not
so,
what you can get at the
so,
on the market.
right, and I think that's a little bit lower than the the mean. for-
Yeah, I think it's about
So like, I think
60.
that's sort of
say
like,
that's.
and I think
61.
maybe that's more the mean towards most seniors' homes. So I think that was the idea, because there is the concern that a lot of seniors are already struggling with the property taxes. But we have programs, in place for that, but not everybody is eligible for those. So it's complicated. And I know, we're taxpayers too, so like, I know my tax bill has gone up. So like, but I think, this is one of these projects where like for the long term, I think that our town will really benefit. And,
And we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk to the friends. You have a friends group.
Right.
So we're gonna be back at the end of the month to talk to the friends. I appreciate you giving us all this time. Seriously, I do.
No, that's awesome.
And maybe we'll see you at the open house.
you all ask really good questions.
Yeah.
And like, anyhow, I guess we could,
Question.
oh, I didn't look at the recording to find it. Wait. Oh, right.
Separate comment, but there's a drill rig on that property right now doing, or at least staged on that property. You know what they're
Wait a
doing?
minute, give me that again.
There's a drill rig currently on that property.
Oh,
Alright.
are they doing the perk
I
tax?
don't know, I'm asking.
Or is it, oh, it's beyond that, okay.
I think Phil heard from people who own the property on the corner.
Oh, is it on the corner though, or?
Yeah, it was on that property, I saw
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause I mean,
Curious.
right, yeah.
Because they wanted to know where our entrances were.
Yeah, I
things
don't
like
know,
that.
right, because, I don't know if you've heard, but, right, on the actual corner of North Ave and 16, it's, privately owned, and
We don't know,
I guess,
the town doesn't own
there's,
that.
I guess, project going to
Yeah.
planning board
There's
about
something-
possibly a bank, because there's,
Okay.
us from the bank.
The one down
the street. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it the bank? I thought it was something different.
I heard bank, I heard bank, whether or not that's true, like, that's the thing, is like, but anyhow, we have to. look at planning board.
What time is the annual town meeting start?
7 o'clock.
7. Vanessa Listo?
Yes.
What day is it? Third?
May
Friday.
Friday, May 3rd.
It's always the first Friday.
Oh, right, so you are, sorry, and then.
Thank you for taking time to do this.
Oh, no, we're happy to do it. No, we're happy to do it. We're getting to meet a lot of people and, we know everybody has to make a decision based on their own circumstances and respect that.
And is there any?
Well, this is definitely helpful, so
Well, that's yours.
Yes.
thank you.
There is actually, I don't think there are any contested races on the ballot at all this year,
Oh,
so.
Interesting. I know Eric Hodge came around our
Yeah.
neighborhood and said,
Yeah.
someone got papers but hadn't written
Yeah,
about something.
so I think that happened, yeah, so.
Is that the planning board?
Mhm.
Yeah, so they're,
Yeah,
so they're, right. The only listing with 2 names was you can check 2.
Check off two.
Check 2.
That was us too, it's great.
Yeah.
That was us too.
Okay, yeah.
And that was intentional.
Oh, there you go. That's even better.
yeah, exactly.
All right, so should
Thank
we?
you.
You will-
Thank you.
I was just gonna say, you have a couple of people missing. Do you want me to leave?
Yeah, you know what, probably there's like 2 or 3.
Yeah, that's okay. No,
Sean, let's give one, I don't think Tara has one.
absolutely, yes, 3.
Okay.
And if you need more, we'll be back to talk to the friends.
Right.
Just give me a heads
Yeah,
up.
and I, unfortunately, I won't, is it the Tuesday? Wait, when is it?
It's at the end of the month. I didn't bring the
Yeah.
calendar.
The friends
No, the
meeting?
friends.
Yeah,
Friends meeting is on, is it on?
It's
a
probably
Monday?
the 29th.
Yeah, I'll actually be there.
That sounds right.
But the 3 or 4.
They're not posted.
Yeah,
They're not.
Yeah, because they're not public. So I
They're
don't
not a
know
public
when-
meeting, yeah. I don't think I'll be there.
Yeah, I won't be able to be there in the way. But I'll be back the next day.
It's not a good look.
My computer did something I didn't expect.
Okay,
Monsters are taking over.
okay.
It's okay. It's full of not good luck. It's fine.
I know, I can
This big way.
as long as I have my keys out.
All right, so 18 Main Street, conversation
Yeah.
came up.
So they sent me an
Oh,
email
yes.
about it, and
Have a nice
Thank you.
weekend. Say hi
Thank
to
you.
you.
Mike Moroli sent an email out because somebody had contacted him about the 18 Main Street. Well, we don't really have anything to do with 18 Main Street.
I was thinking the
anymore.
same thing.
And so I didn't quite understand, I know that they're talking about having, the individual wanted to have 18 Main Street named after Lorna Rose because she had been the longtime librarian there. Opinion one way or the other on that, but I think that he was saying, well, this is what I didn't understand. What I didn't understand was Mike, I'm assuming, wanted this brought up, the plaque brought up about librarians who had spent time, or directors who had spent time at the old Taft Library. And I just said to him, I said, whatever, I'll certainly bring that to the trustees and let them know, whether or not you wanted to have a plaque there, I guess was the question. And then the other thing that I mentioned to him was, it would be really nice if you found a different name for that building, because everybody refers to it as the old Taft Library and people still get confused.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't know, because I think, oh my gosh. Jane Lowell was looking into whether or not the Taft name had to stay attached to that building because it was donated
by the Taft.
originally by.
And that was,
Tafts.
when I read it, I was like, ooh, we would really rename it something that didn't include Taft when they donated that building and that land. Like, that felt weird to me, just reading it going, I wasn't comfortable with it, just
Right.
because it.
But it doesn't really necessarily solve the problem.
Right.
Entirely, like, for example, I think it was Rosa Taft, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you could have it be the Rosa Taft Town Annex, right? But it's still the Taft name, which is potentially confusing because we have the Taft name here. So I didn't know, I assumed that it was just the plaque he's asking about and not about the name of the building.
Yeah, I was a little confused by it too.
Yeah.
Just looking at the email thread, I did see it, but like, didn't give it a lot of thought.
My initial thought when I read the email was, we don't really have anything to do with that building anymore, so why are they asking us? Which I appreciate them wanting to include us, but why are they asking us what we should name it, kind of thing?
Right. Which I assume that meant that it's about a plaque.
And that's, right.
To recognize the directors that were part of the time over at 18 Main Street. But that's as much as I know.
Yeah, it's not clear to me from this either. I mean, other than whether you might just have any opinions on it, I think as people who are connected with the library. But I mean, this is also like, it's a history question also.
Right, which is where Jane comes in, right?
Right, sure, because you said Jane was doing some research or looking back, so
Because we could do a cool plaque, like we could even do like one in here that lists all the directors. So like the director's plaque, so that it shows the history and goes back as far as we can. Kind of agnostic to location, but just then it's a record of that needs.
and that could be what Jane is doing right now.
Sure.
Is in terms of tracking back the history of the library, because obviously it didn't just start with that 18 Main Street building. It was in the records room, that little building across the way prior to that, so.
So it was in the records room and then Taft donated that building and then that became the library.
Here. And then 3 different buildings.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree that we probably can't name, we probably have to keep the Taft name attached to it somehow.
Right.
But need to distinguish it enough that it's not confusing to people, especially out of town people.
Right.
Maybe we just need to go back and ask them, what do you want?
Well, so, I mean, I think it's more this,
Or maybe we just wait till Jane finishes her research and.
I mean, it's right, the individual, I think, who's asking about it, but right, I mean, I agree, it doesn't seem like it's the library trustees who have any say over that building. You could have it, but you could have an opinion.
Of course,
about it.
right.
That's, I mean,
Right.
and I mean, I think the idea of like a plaque. Well, right, I mean, right, one question is, right, can the name be changed in such a way, like, you know, and then, but could the library do something else to honor this person, which I think is somewhat the point of the person who's asking about it. Yeah.
Well, she has a genealogy room named after her.
Yeah, I mean, we
Okay.
have a genealogy room here
Oh,
named
really?
after her.
Oh, okay.
So maybe they don't realize that either, whoever was asking.
Mhm.
And this was this, I think works off of, I don't know, a discussion that was had like all the way back in
So
2020 or something.
March 9th, 2022, and they give a link to it, so it was
Right.
before my time.
Yeah,
Is that, yeah, it was
and there was a discussion,
May
I
of
think that,
2022, and I'm like, I have no memory of this, okay, because I wasn't there, so that's good, because I.
No responsibility.
It's not always the case.
it sounds like this individual had a vested interest then, and then it just nothing happened about it, so that's why they were re-inquiring about what is happening with the building, and then,
Yeah.
so I don't know if, I don't know offhand,
Yeah.
and I don't know exactly, did you wanna? I don't know.
You go
There's a
the
lot of
answer
my-
to
I don't know right now. I mean, I can reach back out to Mike and ask him, but I just don't
I mean,
know.
yeah,
I don't think anybody here is opposed to a plaque in that building.
Of course not.
No,
Of course
Yeah.
not.
I mean,
Celebrate things like that.
Yeah,
yeah,
pieces of history. Right.
yeah, but I mean, right, I feel like, yeah, a response would be that, like,
I don't get the sense
another
that,
jurisdiction.
yeah, I don't get the sense that he's saying, well, let's have the library determine what the name of that building is.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think that's what.
No, I guess, yeah,
Might even be cool to have like a plaque out front that tells you the whole history of the building, not just the library director. So maybe that's a little section of it,
That'd be cool.
but like, this is what the building was originally. This is who donated it to the town. This is what its functions were in the town. This is what it currently is. Like, that would be kind of cool.
right,
Then the kids in town could be part of, you know, they can go and they can see the history of that particular building.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Yeah, like a, not just a regular plaque, but like,
When you go to those historic sites, or
Yeah.
those big ones, you know,
Yeah.
pictures and.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it strikes me that, like, it would be good to like, bump this to the historic.
That's,
Yes.
yes.
Like,
Yeah, actually.
Absolutely. Great
including the
idea.
naming of the building.
We are redirecting this
Absolutely.
right over there.
But I,
Well, it is a little
Yeah.
unusual, if for whatever reason, like suddenly the library was supposed to come up with a name for that building. That's why I just assumed,
Yeah,
okay, I think
maybe
he
it
just
was
means the
looking-
plaque.
maybe just looking for input.
yeah,
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we're certainly happy to help brainstorm if they really want us to, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
agree that it's not really our,
Yeah,
our,
yeah. Yeah, it feels like yeah, to me, it's mainly, yeah, a historic. But I don't know, yeah.
So what do we need to be doing at this point for this? Do I need to reach back out to Mike?
I would say yes. I would say yes. I would say we discussed this at the trustees meeting. We brought, I brought this up at the trustees meeting.
Certainly not opposed to a plaque that would recognize past directors and history of the building as a library building.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's not a level of comfort of naming the.
We're happy to help with giving, with any brainstorming if you need so, but in discussing it with the whole group, we determined that it really probably should be kind of run or headed up by the historical commission so that because they're the ones that would have to look into the history of the building and.
Right, and also any, like constraints on the name of the.
On the name of the
based
building,
on,
right.
Like,
which I assume that's what Jane was looking into.
Probably,
Um,
you know, then kind of, I think that's a good step.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, we're ready to move on. Once you've got your notes.
Yeah.
So the director's report and the budget update.
Oh, yes. I'll move relatively quickly. Okay, so, let's begin. Staff. We had our staff meeting, very brief, and then basically just got to shopping. It was nice. We spent nearly 1,100.
Nice.
That's like a lot of fun.
It was fun. Although dangerous, because Jane was there and Jane has a discount card for Barnes and Noble, and so she was buying things for the library, not with her discount. But buying then things for herself, and that's why it's dangerous, because suddenly she had, you know, I don't know how many things she had.
1,100.
But she certainly had some things, and she's like, this is not good. This is very dangerous. And I said, I understand that. But it was really nice. So, that was yesterday, and, Chris Hoyman is away, and Tara and Chris are gonna go at some point. I may go back as well at that same time, if they decide to go to a shop. Because there are a couple areas that, would be nice to sort of invest in, and they have some manga experts there. Like in the teen section, we'd like to kind of do that section over a little bit, not do it over, but like fill it out a little bit. And so I might go in and take advantage of their expertise. And I think they'll probably go and do their shop in the next month or so. That's my guess. Budget. So yes, yesterday the budget was approved, but it's going to the FinCom, right? Yeah,
Yes.
somebody told me exactly how this all was.
So, right, we approved the budget, the select board
Select
approved the budget, right, but then the FinCom has to decide about their recommendation
Right.
of the budget, and that's gonna be on
Just Tuesday?
Yeah, the 23rd, yeah, it is already next week, so yes.
Tuesday? 23rd. And do they go like department by department? How does that work? That's right.
Yeah,
Um,
we could watch last year.
so, right now, the budget for FY '25 stands at 329,800, which is up slightly from 328,370. So, it's about 1,400 additional, which is, primarily in the salaries line and not necessarily so much in operations. So let's see. It meets the 19% materials expenditure requirement, which I told them that has to be the case. Also, it's municipal appropriation requirement. There's no disproportionate cut there. So that's good. I was concerned because initially the number that I was given was a cut to the budget. And if that cut to that budget was going to be disproportionate to the adjusted municipal, that was going to be an issue. One thing that did happen is that 4,000 was moved from the books line to salaries. What's nice about that is it still ensures that we're meeting the 19% material expenditure requirement. And we have the potential to gain 4 staff hours. But because we have 2 desks, you're looking at 2 staff hours. But still,
Sure.
there's the potential then to put on like a Tuesday and a Wednesday to add that hour in the evening, so that we can make things a little bit more reasonable for people after they come home from work and actually have an extra hour to get over here.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I thought that was really good. So that's the budget, I talk a little bit more about it in the next section, but we'll go over that. Other staff items, I'm working on staff evaluations, and I'll be meeting with everybody in April and May on those. Facilities, I spent my days now swapping out lights and lamps.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine.
Oh, that's
No,
what I'm very familiar
Yeah,
with.
well, I mean, you know, there's.
We definitely need a plaque for that.
Oh, you're talking about
So do we have
Well,
to
that's a
do
great
your evaluation?
question, because there have been times that that's been done, and then there were times in years that it hasn't been done.
Okay,
I think that's up to you. You could talk to, Ellen about it, because Ellen was once the
Right.
chair, and she'd have more information for you on it. Yes,
Pause, question to the town. What are the department head requirements per town on evaluations? Like each department head, are they evaluated by the board of the select board?
Oh, I don't know.
oh, no,
That's an
department heads aren't
interesting
evaluated by the select board, they're definitely by the trustees,
Sure.
because I've had it done before.
Great, but is there a requirement set
right, but
forth?
Oh.
not all the department heads have
Have
received.
have a board.
Exactly.
Right.
Got it.
I don't know that. I mean, that sounds like an HR policy
Cool.
question. for
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I feel like actually historically it would be like town administrator is sort of the position above a lot of the other.
There certain departments.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's probably where
Cool.
it is, but I don't know.
I will do some digging.
Could be in his contract.
Hey, sure, could.
I believe, we should take a look at it, right? Is it, I think it may be. Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, thanks.
Okay, so children's fixtures on order, that's gonna be in hopefully soon, so hallelujah. I did figure out what lamps need to go in the upstairs vaulted ceiling. I don't wanna have to call somebody in to actually swap those out, and so I'm gonna ask Steve about whether or not I could maybe have a ladder through the school or something to actually, it's honestly swapping two LED bulbs out, you know? And I don't really want to pay somebody to do something which is pretty straightforward. I don't know if we'll be able to help it, it kind of depends on what Steve is able to get hold of for us. Anyway, but there's two lights out upstairs in the main periodicals area. BVT, the Leos are coming in May to clean and paint the sign up front. I just got new letters, new numbers, purchased those through Signs Plus. So those just came in. Window cleaning will be done tomorrow. All the perimeter, inside and outside of the perimeter windows will be cleaned tomorrow, and the landscaper is supposed to be here tomorrow as well.
Awesome.
Let's see what else. Fire extinguishers have been worked on. They do need to come back and swap a couple things out. There were 2 extinguishers in that room. There's supposed to be 1 with a 200 capacity as opposed to 2 100 capacity. And then I discovered that the company that we were going through was not accurately inspecting those.
Wow.
So Impact Fire Service does it now for the whole town
Awesome.
and apparently knows what they're doing, because it said that these are things you don't do and this is what this company was doing. Cutting corners is basically what was happening. Oops. Asbestos abatement happened last week.
Saw when they were here.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, I saw when they were here.
They were here for the full day. And I don't believe that they need to come back at this point. I think the next step, as far as I know, I think it was right around then. Yeah, like middle of the week, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I nudged John Erickson on that, because I'm like.
Oh, really?
Before I was gonna meet, it's, before I was planning to come to this, I'm like,
Yeah.
is there an update on that? And I think.
Good for you.
so,
Thank you.
uh,
That's good.
Yeah, so I think maybe, yeah.
I'm glad you nudged, because I mean, I have tried to nudge, but then
Okay.
also not to over nudge.
Right, so I figure like nudging coming from different.
Sure, no, that's great, that's
So
wonderful.
that's good, because I did ask him if there was an update, so I'm happy to hear that there was.
Yeah,
I hadn't heard yet, so yes.
yeah, and so I believe that that piece of it is done. I don't have any time frame for when highway, because I assume highway is the one who's taking the building
Okay,
down.
right, and they may not know that
It's
it's
done.
done.
Yeah, and they may not know, that's a good question.
But I still have my email to John Erickson, so like, yeah, so yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
And then, my understanding, at least what I was told by Mike Maroli, was that when they take down that building, that at the same time, they were supposed to take care of the cut through.
We're doing that?
No,
Big
highway.
Ways,
But
but
what are they
highway,
doing?
highway's doing that?
That's what Mike told me, but no, I don't know, I might be
What
wrong.
are,
about
what are they doing as far as the cut through, like?
that. I think they're tearing it up.
But-
And tear up the pavement that's there.
I have so many questions about that.
I know.
And so many concerns about that. A, the town shouldn't have to pay
Right.
anybody or anything to remove that first, and then B,
Yeah.
is he gonna have an issue if we,
I'm only the
damage
messenger on
and
this.
stuff?
I know,
I know,
yeah.
but I just,
Right,
but then what about
right.
damaging on his side of the property,
Yeah,
and like, I have so many concerns about that.
Yeah,
It
Well,
doesn't
and
feel
the,
like a great idea.
yeah,
right.
and I have a couple other things we can talk about post-meeting, maybe, I think. I will say that the individual next door is aware
Mhm.
and has received
Okay,
something from the town
Oh,
that
that's
that
good.
needs to, that is going to be done or needs to be done. I'm not sure that I think there's a couple of disconnects that way, as far as, but we can talk about that.
okay,
Anyway, but I agree with you, I mean, the fact that that's there.
I mean, unless that's part of the agreement, maybe they
Right.
agree to that, and that's their prerogative, the town's handling it, but I just.
Have to like jackhammer it up.
Well,
You know, have somebody come in to
Right.
jackhammer it up.
Yeah.
And it would be at their expense. I get it, so I don't know, this is what I was told, and I'm leaving it at that.
Yep, it's not our gig, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's the towns to deal with it.
Yep.
And it's not dollars that are being spent out of our budget.
No.
right,
No.
And not to be sole source minded, but we have a finite
Right,
number of dollars there, as long as our dollars aren't being impacted.
right.
right, exactly. So that's what I know about that. Like I said, I don't have a time frame on when that building's coming down. Budget. 24,957.35 was spent from the budget in March. 13,396 in operations, 11,560 in salaries. After 9 months, 66.7% of the total budget is spent, 66.1% out of operations, 67.2 out of salaries. So for the month, the major expenses were in contracted services, 3,408. We spent over 5,000 in books. And let's see, utilities was actually lower than I would have figured. Usually we're up around 2,000 this time of year, but obviously things have been milder. So this year we haven't spent as much out of utilities. What else can I tell you? There's not a lot more to tell you about that. I can talk about it when we get to the budget.
Haven't
So-
ever run the AC yet, that's why.
You know, that's true, that's true. Let's see, additional budget proposal information that I put down here. Just so everyone knows, 18,150 was moved from contracted services into telephone line and the building maintenance line. It's kind of a right sizing. There were a number of expenses that have been paid through contracted services since I began, prior to my being the director, that really should have been building and maintenance costs. And so it was just, what is it, right sizing or
Right,
right identifying
yeah,
where things should be coming from. The FY25 budget proposal, there are lines of level funding, and those include programming, utilities, supplies and meetings and dues are all level funded. The other thing I should mention is that the children's and the library assistant salaries do not currently include COLA increases because those have not been determined yet, voted on yet. So the numbers would potentially change with an increase or the potential of an increase. Anybody have any questions about that? And as I said, 4,000 was moved into into salaries from books, which, like I said, allows for some additional library assistant hours. Programs, numbers are still really good. Playgroup on Mondays, had 63 participants for 4 sessions. Itty bitty, like literally every time there's 30, 40 parents and children, parents, caregivers and children at any given session. Story and craft times have been busy, have been bigger. And she recently realigned the room back there in the children's area because people were bumping up too much against the stove. So like that has been switched almost like, the configuration has been switched, which I think is working better now. Public story time, huge numbers there, 47 in one session. Alphabet story time has great numbers. Conversations in German the last month had 17 people, which was, they typically get between 10 and 12, so that's growing. The African Safari, South African Safari presentations 24, just good solid numbers all around. I think the one area where she would hope that we maybe had greater numbers would be like book clubs. That's the ghost. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know what that was. It's strange.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one that heard it.
Yeah. Like the kids' book clubs, there's sometimes like 8 to 10 kids, but sometimes it's a smaller group. But as I said, like you won't get the number you want to get to unless you grow it from the beginning, from early on and up. Upcoming March events, the Ellen Henry, the medium that's coming in, she's basically booked solid again. Every time she comes in, she books solid.
Yeah, I'm on the wait list.
Yep. Yep.
Although I don't know if I can go now, so.
And then, other things that are still coming up are obviously listed there, and I won't go through them in major detail. Projects. Adult fiction's completely weeded downstairs here. The adult fiction and nonfiction audio is completely weeded. Juvenile fiction is now weeded, and there's less than half of nonfiction left to weed. All very good, because once we've completed those sections, we'll probably take a little bit of a break. And a lot of boxes have moved over to the rectory for the sale. So we're in good shape with that.
That's good.
Yeah.
I did,
yeah.
I talked to Amy Townsley
Yes.
at the library in Nipmuc.
Oh, yeah.
She's been helping with the MISCO library and trying to
Oh, yeah.
reorganize and redo all of that.
Yes.
And so I really toted her coming to
Oh my
the
gosh,
Friends book
absolutely.
sale for both libraries,
Mhm.
in order to try to get them
That's
stuff.
actually
'Cause
really good.
the problem with MISCO is all the books there are 20 years old. So any kid who goes there
Oh, no,
to take
I-
out a book, there's nothing there they want to read because they're ancient.
Yeah.
So I told her to come here and see what she could get. Well, and
I think
I
that's a good
sat in that library with them
Totally.
for a couple weeks while I was working at MISCO.
Yeah.
And kids would come in and say, do you have anything by this author? Or do you have anything? And every time I looked, I never had success finding anything that they came in and requested to want to read. So she's been, not that it's really her job, but she's been trying to help at MISCO and reorganize and do all that. So I told her to make sure she came here. And
Oh,
that,
absolutely.
we would support her, in any way we could
Yeah.
to try to make
I
both
think
libraries
that's great.
better.
Yeah.
Just, she may reach out to you. I was like,
That's fine.
you
I
can reach out to her or
absolutely-
just come. No one's gonna question you're coming here.
And I'm on the advisory committee over at MISCO, and so I've actually spent a little time in the library recently, because she said, well, I just gave some input from my knowledge of things. And I said, if there's ever questions, please reach out. Like I told her what we do in terms of reading it, because like you said, there's so much old material there. I sent her some material on reading and sort of what a public library does, and obviously it translates to a school library too. So, but yeah, I agree with you. There's plenty of room for improvement over there as far as newer materials.
Really hoping we get some awesome donations that she can just
That'd be nice.
slide right in over there, because that would be amazing.
And they definitely do need, like, I think the things that were on the older end, a lot of it was nonfiction. And nonfiction, you know, it's solid for, kids nonfiction is solid for maybe 6 to 8 years, and then you have to like overhaul. So they've got a task in it, but I mean, I've seen they've reorganized the room over there, and they have volunteers. But I said, if they need additional input, you know, or if you're having a day where they're moving, give me a call. I mean, I can help you out. Check the schedule, but I can help you out.
Yeah, sure.
Side note,
So
sorry.
yeah, no, that's fine. I think that's a great idea. That'd be wonderful.
As long as you get it scheduled between light bulb replacements.
Right, yes.
Well, actually, that was out the other day. So, yeah, so now you can
That-
use the bathroom.
Calling maintenance
That's
companies,
right.
you know, you gotta add that in
I'm
there
sorry.
too. Let's see, oh, yeah, so, yeah, the book sale coming up on June 8th. Like I said, I think we've probably deposited 30 to 40 boxes over there recently. We'll talk about policies when, down the agenda, so I'm going to any of that at the moment. I did, Greg, the town interim, town administrator, was over today. So I gave him a tour of the building, and we talked about just different things and things in the community. And I told him, you know, I mean, he's here for what, 3 months, right? But I did tell him, like, you know, these were, what our challenges are, but I also, you know, said that we really love our space. I said it was done for less than 2 million, which is virtually unheard of. So I said it was done, you know, inexpensively, but we appreciate what we do have. But I mentioned the working group, and that we're thinking about what are the things what could we potentially do with that which is over to the stop things and attach. So we did talk a little bit about that, and that nice guy, and has had a lot of experience working in towns. As a matter of fact, he was at Medway, and I live in Medway, but he was there before we moved to Dudley for a long time.
And he's done the interim thing a lot.
Yes.
Which is helpful.
Yeah.
Lock himself in and.
Yeah. I told
Is he
him,
interested in like doing it full time for us or no?
No, he's.
I think he's definitely interim.
Interim,
Yeah.
But I think that the search begin again.
From what I understand, it's posted again.
Yeah, that's, I think, what you said.
And the hope is that maybe the timing will be better aligned with, you know, the summer when a lot of people might be getting to the ends of their contracts with
Oh, right.
fiscal year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an optimist. I'm like, it's gonna work this time.
I reached out to Maureen Cohen, superintendent,
Yeah.
and emailed her and told her sort of what we're looking to do. I said it probably would make more sense, things are getting to the end of the school year, you know, is this something we can get in the works for the fall? She was gonna reach out to Jay Byer, who is the finance director for the schools and is routinely in contact with the bus company. So we'll see where that goes. I haven't heard back yet, but I'm hopeful. The end of her email was really about, like, the more we can get students to understand the value of their library and she's all on board with them. So let's crossing my fingers.
And if we can get that in place, it would be really cool if we were able to host some activities at that time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
school gets out at 2:45 for the middle
after
school,
school
host something
activities.
at 3 o'clock. So that, you're enticing kids to
Sure,
come here after
absolutely.
school for that activity.
Right.
And I told her this was primarily like, we're looking at middle school, high school, because, you know, you can't drop a 6-year-old off.
Right.
So they have.
We don't want that responsibility.
Yeah. So she, sent, a link for their transportation, page, and it has, they actually have a permission slip that's specifically for middle grade. They don't have them for high school because I'm assuming that there's a necessity for that, because I had asked her like, well, what is it? How does that work? Do you have, if parents are going to be around and they're dropped off, we want to make sure that we're being responsible as well about that and not having somebody show up who does not already have the permission to be here, so.
Or doesn't have a planned ride home.
Right,
either.
yeah, exactly, that, all of those things have to be in place, so. So I'm hopeful, see where
Yeah.
it goes.
That's
like
the
it.
news.
Community reading day over at Clough was fun. I did talk up the library and the summer reading program. A lot of the kids I recognized, either through first grade visits or in book clubs. It was a fun class. I read they give you a book now to read. See, it's almost like cramming for an exam. In the office, I'm like, you know, I read this so that I'm familiar with this, because I like to like hold it here and then like, I'll
Yeah.
read upside down.
Sure.
This one, a lot of words. And I like words.
They gave you a chapter.
Totally, love words. But it was, yeah, I mean, it was good.
To test the librarian.
Yeah, it was tested. I was there with, one of the, I think it was assistant superintendent, and there were, the principal from Misco was there. She was cramming. So yeah, they've done that for the last 2 years, because what happens is then you gift the book to the class afterwards.
Oh, she left last year.
The principal, yeah.
He's the main one.
Bird?
Forget, I'm horrible with names.
Forget to. I forgot her, but.
So anyway, but it was nice. Regional, so we received our second, state award in the amount of $7,487.61. Combined with the one from, I want to say it was February, $14,869.55 for the year.
So I got an email, I'm on, I don't know if you get them, do you get them? I don't even know how I got on this email list,
Yeah,
but something to do with me being a trustee. And it was like a link to the
Oh.
spreadsheet of the
Yes.
state awards, but I was
Sure.
like, I opened it up and I was like, I have no idea what this means.
yeah.
Um,
I think they just take, go town by town and.
Yeah,
The amount awarded, provided you do all of the state aid paperwork, and the errors report for the state, which is statistical. Provided you submit all of those things, and most of them, it's, submission in August and October, and that your library meets all the criteria, then you're given, given the
yeah, I
state aid.
couldn't figure out what all the columns meant, I was like.
Yeah, I mean, and it varies based on population, so the amount received is
Because
based
this
on
was like 2021, and then this was second award, and then I didn't know what those other ones meant.
Yeah, they might have, I don't know why they would have done 2021.
The first column says 2021, FY 2021 POP,
Oh,
and then cert date, and then LIG money, MEG money, NRC money, and then.
some of
second
the things that are taken out as part of the state program, like for certain services,
Yeah,
I'd have to look at it to tell you exactly what the.
and then I went down to Mendon and saw that it was $7,487, which is what you said.
Like I said, it's based on population, so if you're in the, I wanna say 5,000 to 8,000 range, there's pretty consistent, I kind of looked, I'm serious. What other towns were receiving for state aid, if they were.
Of course, right, why would you?
6,000 or 7,000 a number, and it's pretty close, yeah. So that's the, like I said, the second installment came through. As far as I know, the earmark for the feasibility study is still, Brian's still pursuing that. I know, like I said, we talked about that revenue is down in the state for the year, so I don't know where anything's gonna go. There are some other things that I think he's brought to, for, yeah, exactly, yeah, for Mendon, so, I mean, we'll
Oh,
see.
God, yeah.
There are some.
I'm almost willing to donate the money, almost.
So we'll see. My understanding is that by the end of April, we'll know. And that's the end of the director's report. Real quickly on the budget report, as I mentioned, we have about 33% of the budget left unspent. Right around now, we should get about 25%, so we're right about the 8% I think it was last. So we have to, fuel and utilities fuel, it certainly hasn't been as high as I figured it would be this year. So there's certainly more in that line. We still have more in the contracted services line. I know there's some things coming out that we using that money for, and particularly books, we need to, I'm keeping an eye on that because that's a little higher than I'd like. But certainly, we're within the budget, just we have a little more than I figured we would have. But we'll get there. Okay. Anybody have any questions about either the director's report or the budget report?
Nope.
And
I
now,
have to take off.
Thank
Sorry.
you. No
I have to
worries.
drive up to Vermont, so.
oh,
Thank you.
oh, yeah,
for
safe,
your
yeah.
time. All right, do we have a policy this month? And
Okay, so, when I wrote you, we have one last policy, and it's the circulation policy. It's a little lengthier. I wanted to have, Monica, Chris, and Tara look at it. I've actually edited it, but I want another set of eyes on it. And so have them take a look at that and determine if there's anything that's been left off that should have been on there. Some of it is about timeframes for checkout periods, and then I had to pull some things off of there because we're fine free now. So certain language did not apply anymore. So that's the only policy, existing policy we have remaining to be reviewed and voted on. So the only other thing I was gonna do is, and this is when we were first looking at policies, this would have been like, I don't know, probably 2012, 13. There are some other policies that we could look into. And actually I wanted to ask you, James, on one of these, but we don't have not this one, but we don't have a general sort of volunteer policy, a policy for volunteers, which I think might be valuable.
Yeah, agreed.
Definitely agree.
An exhibit bulletin board policy, I know right now that is our bulletin board specifically for nonprofits.
Sure.
The one upstairs is for whoever is in the hallway up there. But I think important if somebody wanted to post something that could be construed as objectionable, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea for us to have that. The one I'm wondering about, and this is something that you had started to talk about too, is an emergency response policy and a safety policy. We need to get all that buttoned up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we do not have anything specifically in place for that. I know I reached out to the fire department a long back, and then I reached out to, I can't remember what was at the police department as well.
Sure.
But as things go, you reach out again, and sometimes it just doesn't happen, but I really think
We can write it. That's not hard. So I have a bunch of different templates for different locations. So
great.
I will put it on my list.
Okay.
And I have it for action.
That would be really good. And like, including like an evac plan, that sort of thing. These are things that we need to have.
Yeah, definitely.
So to follow on to that, I did have a couple of good dialogues with folks at both police department and fire
Oh, yeah.
about doing drills. So
Oh, okay.
part of the meeting today with MEMA was talking about other forms of drills for both school systems and public services.
That'd be wonderful.
They've offered to come in and actually run both tabletops and some larger drills.
Okay.
Nice part is they come with a package deal. We kind of give them a couple of little nuggets and then like, here's what we do. And then they run you through a tabletop exercise.
Sure.
But especially as director, if something goes wrong here, you're the one on the hook and you're the one people are going to look to for
Right.
answers.
Exactly.
So we really, in the longer scheme, it gives you more tools in your toolbox to deal with some of those harder questions that will come. So that is already, folks are engaged in it and want to do it. It is not something that's going to happen quickly. But
Right.
I say not quickly, we're not gonna say next month, but I expect that you will be able to have something, at least tabletop that we can be talking through and whatnot within 6 months.
Great.
And then extra like real drills within a year, no question.
Awesome.
So
That'd be
that's,
great.
that was part of today's meeting.
Good. Great. Excellent. So yeah, those are the ones that I thought of at the moment. I don't know if anybody had any thoughts about any other areas where there's a need. And like I said, what I had mentioned in the email was I will have a circulation policy ready for us to review at the next.
Okay. And if you don't, I mean, if you need extra time for them to review it, that's totally.
Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do is get it out to them to kind of take a look at, so. Most of it is, like I said, language, pulling out language that doesn't pertain to us anymore because of fine-free.
Changes.
That sort of thing,
Yeah.
changes. So that was policies.
Job descriptions, right?
Oh, yes, so the
Next.
children's job description, and actually, I should have asked that, I always make copies of the report. Did anybody need a copy of the director's report today?
Nope.
Good.
Does anybody need a copy of the children's job description?
Nope.
All right.
See, you've trained us well.
So I went and there were changes we talked about making, and so those
Yeah.
changes have been
Have a
put in.
yeah.
Preschool through grade 12. I think at the tail end of the policy itself, there was creative play, arts and crafts for children and young adults.
Yeah.
So that was put in.
And a minimum of 2 years.
Yes, yeah, the requirement.
And did
that
you
should be.
talk to Tara about it?
Yes, she did review it. There wasn't really anything that she saw that she felt, number one, needed to be in there.
Mhm.
And there wasn't anything, we did talk about the fact that this is both children's and young adult, which was not specified before.
Mhm.
But she didn't have any issue with that, I mean, like I said, most of the time with young adult events, like the book club and that sort of thing, we're tandeming. on that.
Right.
So-
And that's, yeah, we're not asking.
And going
for
forward, yeah. and
Anything
going
that she
forward,
doesn't do already, right.
Exactly. So yeah, she didn't have any issues with any of it, and there wasn't anything that she felt should be added specifically, so.
Good.
I think that's all good.
I'll present a motion to accept the finished version of job description children's librarian. It's been presented today on the 18th of April.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Rich, I will, mark it down that that has been reviewed and amended.
So garage update, I think we've already talked about. Rectory group, there hasn't been any changes to that.
So we met, right?
Oh, yeah, I wasn't here for that. Whoops.
We
I
did,
missed
no,
that.
we met and we did talk a little about,
Yeah, it was a very small group.
yeah, so and we talked about you had mentioned like, well, all right, if the building is connected,
Oh, yeah, we did
do
talk about that.
we need to have, and well, I agree, does there need to be a sprinkler system?
Hmm.
Can it be?
So James seemed to think if they were still considered two separate buildings, then no, we
Okay.
wouldn't.
Yeah, that's from my understanding, but again, we would need the experts to double. check.
Right.
Of course.
We could potentially avoid some of it.
Okay.
And honestly, the other big part of the discussion is somewhat silly as it was understanding that for this town, we may have to look at this more of as a philanthropic pursue. How do you get
Yes,
funding
yes.
instead of totally.
100% agree.
I saw James
agree.
the Tuesday before I left, and he was like, I'm still looking for that
I
millionaire.
am.
Yes.
I am hunting for
Well,
millionaires.
Maybe
and-
we do another naming thing. That was fairly
That's.
good. That made
Exactly.
a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
You know, that was an easy thing to do. It was way easier than any of the fundraising stuff that we did because it required marketing.
Yeah.
And that's
You
it.
don't wanna do a cock chip bingo again?
I hear there's a big open field over there.
Yeah, at least for the moment.
No, somebody can shit
So,
So that's all right. That's all
It's
good.
a shit.
Yeah.
they were good.
It'll say it twice now. That's even better. So honestly, the biggest part of the meeting was
Sorry.
understanding that
I lost my head.
in our current financial state within the town, we don't have, we're gonna have hard times to
It's-
stand.
Yeah,
Yes, I
I
agree.
don't see it happening. So I think we need to figure out
A
what we
workaround.
want to do,
Sure.
how much it's gonna cost,
Yeah.
and then how we're gonna pay for it. If we don't need town approval, we can get maybe grant money without having to deal with some of that stuff.
Well, that's,
You know
I
what I
said,
mean?
like, are there workarounds from
then
some of the general?
Do we refund the stuff with naming things and, you know, we just figure out how much we need for money and then
Yep.
set the naming rights to that dollar amount to fill in the blanks.
And then there were 5 minutes of Monica saying I was pouring cold water on everything, which was not true. No. And we were talking about, I'm trying to remember how that came up, but Monica's saying, and I totally get it, like, there needs to be like a, I don't know about an urgency, but it needs to be, like, we can't just sort of like have these discussions and then just let it sort of
Right.
drift off. Like, and I was trying to say,
We're constantly discussing, okay, this is what we wanna do, but then it doesn't go anywhere.
right.
And it's not to no fault of anyone's, it's
no.
just,
And that's what I was saying, is like, everybody is on board with the idea of doing something and getting this done. It's figuring out. how-
taking that next step.
And-
We're
and
not
Maybe
able to
that's
take that next
what
step.
we do in our next meeting. We say, okay, look, we should be finding out whether we get the money from the state for the feasibility study. And if we don't get that,
Mhm.
what is our next step? Does that take money from the relocation fund that the Friends have and go hire an architect to design our plans for us and give us a budget? And then when we have that, we could then move forward with the rest. And maybe that's, you know, what we have to decide at our next meeting of like, this is our next steps.
Right.
This is our A plan, this is B plan, this is C plan. So if one doesn't work, we move to the next one. If that one, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that we have very concrete steps of this is how we're moving forward, because she's right. If we don't do that, we will come and we will sit in these meetings and we will talk every month and we won't get anywhere. We're just gonna start.
Talk.
And I feel like we've already started to get into this
Circle around,
circle
right.
motion where we really aren't making any progress.
Right.
We're talking about the same
Sure,
thing without actually making a step forward. And if, you know,
But yeah, and I think there was a question about, well, is there the necessity of the feasibility study? My understanding was always that, I mean, you have to have that feasibility study before you get anywhere.
Yeah,
That
that's what
gets you
Monica
your
was saying.
design.
She's like,
Right.
do you really need a feasibility study? And she, because again, we've been through it already and it hasn't gone anywhere. We spent $25,000 or whatever it was.
but if we go into it with we have to fund this ourselves. Like that was very much with going to the town and getting the money from them.
Sure.
But if we go into it with the expectation and understanding of we have to fund this ourselves and with grants and whatever, then we're very conservative with what we ask for and what that comes back with. You know, we're not gonna expand the building.
No.
It's not gonna happen.
That's what it is.
It is what it is. So how do we make that space work? And how do we do it at the least cost possible? So what do we need to do to not have to put a sprinkler? That's gonna have to be a must. We can't afford it. It's not gonna happen.
Right.
How do we do it without it? You know what I mean? And go into it with that very explicit understanding with whoever does the feasibility study, architectural designs, whatever we end up doing. These are your requirements. We can't dream big. We can dream medium
We can dream real.
or small. Yeah, real. I like that. We dream real. That's
Right.
perfect. We dream
Right,
real.
you're right.
You
You have to be
know,
realistic about it.
So yeah, that was the,
Do we recall what's left in the relocation?
that was like 10. or 9.
Yeah, I think it's 9 out
Maybe
of
it's,
10 right
maybe
now.
it's 9.
Mhm.
But that should be enough. And if we, so on the flip side, if we run all of this through the Friends, which is what we're gonna end up having to do if we self-fund this,
Sure.
we run it through the Friends, we no longer have to deal with all of the state municipal requirements for,
3 bids and.
well, we can do it the cheaper route, so to speak. We don't have to get, what is that money? What is that called when we have to get, town approved vendors and,
Like bids?
not bids, but doesn't matter. We can,
Yeah.
we don't have to follow the same
Guidelines.
rules. Yeah, it has to be safe. I'm not trying to say anything about that, but
We need a licensed professional, but that's what we
correct,
need.
that's it. Right, we don't have to follow, some of the stuff the town does
Right.
for that kind of stuff. And if we get a local guy who's willing to donate half his services, we roll with
Right,
that.
did you,
So I called a couple
Yeah.
different places. and
Okay.
One was a larger firm, and they were not game. Another one was debating, and I'm hoping to get a call back. They were gonna talk about it this week. So we had talked about
Okay.
getting
Yeah.
pro bono, so an engineer
Okay.
pro bono for it.
Yeah.
Because we're like, hey, why not?
Right,
So
does he want his name on something?
that's what we joked about.
Done.
So I don't have yay or nay. I have a nay from one,
Mm.
but that larger firm was a pie chip.
who was the larger firm?
Stantec.
Oh,
Big firm.
okay.
So I was hoping it was kind of one of those, hey, this could be kind of cool for you guys to put your name on something, what do you think?
Yeah.
So no, that was a no.
Okay,
But that's still in process,
I mean,
100%
it'd
agree.
be really cool if we get the Meehan Community Center. But I don't see it happening,
Hey,
but it.
you
that
never
would be
know,
kind of-
gotta find a millionaire.
Right,
Mhm.
he's around.
Amy lives on the street.
That's what I mean.
He's my neighbor.
He's
He's my
local.
neighbor. Don't rub some shoulders with your neighbor.
Fine. All right, so that's
Maybe he'll
rectory
give us a
group,
tour of his.
maybe. Strategic planning, I don't think we have anything. for
No,
that.
not at the moment, but I am thinking maybe next meeting or the June meeting, just run down it again, like
Okay.
a long time, just to see where we're at. It's just good to,
Yeah,
make sure that all those things are being kept in mind and staying on a path of accomplishing those things.
Well, I mean, you are, just based on some of the things, windows.
Yeah, I
we're all
mean, some
part
of
it,
those,
so
right.
right, you're
You're,
definitely
you're
doing
moving
stuff.
forward on all of
Yeah.
that.
Policies, I mean,
I
like,
know.
Exactly.
Policies,
Actually,
yeah.
like in the last year,
Yeah.
all of that has been
Mhm.
worked on, so it's been really good.
awesome.
Any other topics? Set our next meeting?
Yeah,
See, the rectory working group is on the 16th.
May 16th.
yeah, it is.
yeah, did I tell you that after I left? I bet you.
It's okay.
On Mexico.
It was great.
So May 9th would be the
The second.
second.
Thursday.
I actually
Thursday.
put trustee meeting there, so
Yeah.
Okay.
we must have talked about that night, assuming it was gonna be that, okay.
Trustees.
6 to 7.
And this one should be shorter since the seniors, I completely forgot they were coming tonight until she opened the door for me and I
So,
remembered.
real quick,
Did
should
you
we,
pause everything?
nope, should we motion to adjourn?
Sure.
Yes.
I motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. End recording.
Adjourning.